I met with him every...
Okay, you want to go ahead and start with the roll call?
I met with him every week.
Roll call.
Oh, we're working.
Wendover.
Present.
Snyder.
Here.
Engels.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Dubrovic. Taylor.
Here.
Bertles.
Present.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion we approve the agenda.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Question. Could we make an addition to the agenda?
Okay.
We have the Cobbs and Mitchell update, but we don't have a CLG update on the agenda.
True. Okay, so we'll make an addition under old business for the CLG update. Okay, so we will approve the agenda with that addition. Would someone like to make a motion on that?
I'll make a motion we approve the agenda.
Second?
In the CLG.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, public comments. We don't have public comments, but I will introduce our trainer and the MHPN representative, since they're sitting out in the audience. Sharon Frow's on the right-hand side, who's going to start our training here shortly as soon as we get done. Sharon's been doing the training sessions for HDC for a long time, for HDCs all over the state of Michigan. And she actually did ours, was it about 3 years ago?
Something like that. Yeah, 2012. Yeah, exactly.
And Sharon is the staff person for Kalamazoo that does all the historic preservation there, so it's kind of a Mike Coy times 10, because she actually, they have like a number of historic districts down there, so it requires a staff person. And Sharon's been around a long time. She's a EMU grad in historic preservation and very knowledgeable, and she's awesome.
I'm doing NAPC too.
Are you really?
I'm doing campaign.
Oh, good. Okay, that's the National Alliance for Preservation Commissions. So she's now working with them. Terrific.
I get to go on state. They're sending me to Louisiana.
Yay, good for you. And this is Amanda Ranchez, and Amanda is the field representative for the state of Michigan with Michigan Historic Preservation Network, which you've heard me talk about it many times. They've provided us with a lot of resources and help, and they coordinate these training sessions. So Amanda's been there for 3 years now. Yeah. So thank you guys for being here. We're excited. Can't wait to get into that.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to look over the minutes from September 14th? And do they have any changes? Really detailed, Mike. Nice job.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve them?
I'll make a motion we approve the minutes from last month.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have no public hearings today, no new business. So let's get into the old business. Mike, can you update us on Scott Starlin?
Yeah, I can update you. I've spoken actually last week with Scott Starlin due to some family issues, basically just family emergency type issues. He said he's not really had time to work on more or less anything. He hasn't even had time to take out the old fence that was approved to remove, and that he said he's looking at doing some repairs to the soffits and molding and deal with it next year. And he said he's just some issues going on he shared, which I obviously won't, but he just said he won't be doing anything other than trying to do some repair and touch-up painting on the soffits this year.
So he'll probably be back in the spring.
I would think so.
With his...
Yeah. I mean, I call him every month.
Yeah.
And we chat.
Okay.
So he's dealing with some things, which it's we've all been through it. As far as 417 East Harris, I actually spoke with Connie Duncan today. I drove by and she was planting bulbs and stuff, and she said that she and Richard, as far as the windows, they're not going to do anything now until spring, it looks like.
Oh, okay.
So they said it's just finances. We don't have the money right now, and get through the winter and, basically getting the house ready for winter. So she said they'll be looking at their finances in the spring and hoping to go forward. So that's kind of it there. I've got a fair amount of information on 307 East Harris, which we'll discuss later because that was tabled. And then the Cobbs-Mitchell building, I put a current tax update for everybody. The litigation, there was, I believe, some court hearings today. Ed, I don't know if you made it, but you may have information there that you can share. Maybe there's information you can't. But if you don't mind, I'll just refer it to you. Is that fair?
That's fair.
'Cause I wasn't there.
They had a hearing today in front of Judge Fagerman on the city's motion for a summary judgment to foreclose for $32,668.67, as is shown here. In 5 years, as they outlined in court, the only payment made on the Cobbs and Mitchell building was the $3,200 back over, well, a year and a half ago, after we brought it to the attention of the city. The dispute that remains is a very narrow one, according to the judge, and that is whether the city can foreclose on the land under the building. If you recall, when we discussed this first 2 years ago, there was some question under the assessment under Oprah, how much is attributed to land and how much to building. Well, indeed, this is an issue. However, the upshot is simply the definition under the law, and the judge said it seemed like he was ready to rule in the city's favor for foreclosure today, but he wanted to check on that point and find out if the attorneys had any question. He said he will issue a ruling very shortly, and without indicating what he was going to do, he then said, but that would include a redemption period. So, and both sides agreed. So there will be a redemption period, which the city attorney said afterwards today he does not know what that could be. But typically in a foreclosure, the delinquent party is allowed 90 days, 120 something to make good. But the only way it looks like that would happen would be if they'd paid the taxes. So I think it's fair to say that the light at the end of the tunnel is not another train coming towards us. And the city attorney said that he will notify us and the task force as soon as that ruling comes down. But it looks like it could be a week. So then there will be a period where they can pay those back taxes or make some other arrangement with the city, such as give up the property and just leave.
So did it sound like then that was going to be the 60 or 90 days after this happens in a week? I mean, another 60 or 90 days?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, yeah. They would have to be given a redemption, and that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, if you get to this, if any of us were in that position, and frankly, I've been in that position with commercial properties before, where we're behind on taxes. You have built-in redemption periods, right, to, you know, so to give you a chance to pay them up. So it looks like the conclusion is at hand. Now, what happens, though, is a matter between the city council, the attorneys, behind closed doors. The options are they can walk away and turn the deed back to the city, at which point, you know, we will not know because the city does that in closed session. They could decide to forego all the taxes whether to also give them their dollar back, which I'm utterly opposed to, but that's okay. I mean, there's a limit to our kindness, I think. But $32,000 in back taxes is nothing to laugh at.
Yeah.
So the legal question, depending on how it happens, my understanding is there may be some other implications to other taxing units for the city, the schools, for example, the county. So depending on how it's done, that may be a factor.
Okay.
Now, the other upshot of this is I'm waiting for further contact. Mike, I think you were in the loop of that too, with the city manager, who is looking now with Networks Northwest about doing a planning charrette that would move the task force to the next level here of repurposing ideas for the building. There are currently, I would describe them as very loose, but there are 3 ideas floated out there right now for future uses for the building. Everyone's waiting to hear what the legal outcome is before that proceeds. But the task force, I intend to call the task force meeting here as soon as we hear from the city manager, and we can do the planning charrette. We're hoping, counting, Jill, that you would step in for Nan and continue that if you would. And the city manager also would like not only Cobbs and Mitchell be a part of that, but that whole area, the Olson's property, perhaps the other side of the stream, the whole area, as we look at the future of what can be done, sort of tying all that in. So
That's wise.
Yeah.
You know, you look out the front door and what you see.
It's a horrible view.
Yeah.
no question.
Well, it's a terrible, yeah, that was like a 1970s, wasn't that about when it was done, Mark? I mean, it's classic urban renewal stuff.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So I would say things are encouraging after the hearing today. And the judge certainly, the Mission Lake people argued that, you know, they couldn't foreclose on the land, that the tax ID number was wrong, that the city hadn't given them proper notice. And the judge is like, it's 5 years of taxes. I mean,
Yeah, I know. Was it just the attorney there, not the owner?
No, the owner was present.
The owner was present. Was he happy to see you?
No, he was not.
Thank you, Ed, as always, for staying on top of that subject for us. That's good. That's a good update, though. I actually have an end in sight.
I am going to add one thing on the Cobbs-Mitchell building. The utilities payments with the city having to do for that property, city water, city sewer, are completely current. So there's...
We don't know anything about electric or gas?
You
or,
can't.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mike, I'm not hearing you.
The water and sewer bill.
Up to date.
Or up to date.
Current. There's no balance due on the city or water utilities.
Okay. Thank you. All right, thank you both very much for that update. Okay, the CLG update.
I have not worked on it. My pile is getting deeper and deeper and deeper.
Okay. Well, I want to...
My old boss is gone, my new boss is here, and
I know.
the pile's getting deeper.
Okay, so I'm going to mention something here about that.
Sure.
You guys all know that I've been a huge champion for this and bugged everybody to death. And I did meet with Mark today, just so you know, and have handed off a lot of my resources, information, that type of thing for him, and talked to him a little bit about some of these projects, in particular CLG. I think that Mark and I need to meet with either you and or Marcus about this before I leave.
I agree.
Okay. Which would you suggest, or what would you suggest? Does John need to be involved in this?
What I'm going to suggest, and this might be a good way to at least force a little bit of work done, is let's try and set up a meeting with Marcus and myself, and if possible, Mark and you.
Yes.
And once we get a time and date, then what I should probably do is plug in a time prior to that and just shut my office door and go through the application and copy and paste as much information as I can from our, from our documentation that we already have.
And I've done the whole requirement 3 with maps and everything, so we can plug that in. I mean, I really don't think this is that big of a deal. I think we can get this completed, if we just sit down and focus on it. But I know from Marcus that this has been a priority for him. It's just, I mean, he said it was one of his goals for 2015, so I don't think it's going to be that hard, but got to put a little more pressure on him, and I got no problem with that.
That's fine.
So we'll do that one last push. So I will get with you and Mark, and we'll give it one more shot. I just want Mark to be involved because he's going to take it from this point forward, So.
I laugh when I say that the pile gets deeper. And I was actually basically able to handle it, but something just got dropped on me last week, and my comment was, okay, the pile it's a long running on the left side of my desk, and I said, okay, so where in this, what position does it fall under? Is it on top, or is so,
well, yeah,
okay.
I just think it's such a great tool, and it's one of the few places where we can get grants, bricks and mortar grants for a lot of these buildings. And if the city does end up with Cobbs and Mitchell, and we have the museum, and they have the Quonset Hunt building, those are 3 buildings that are going to be owned by the city, and all of those could use work, and could use...
in the historic streets.
Exactly, exactly. And another thing...
I think that would go for that as well,
I would think so. Some infrastructure, yes, I think it does. The other thing is Mark and I talked today about needing more workshops for the community, for do-it-yourselfers. Like we should be doing right now on a Saturday a weatherization type workshop for all of these property owners that want to know, what else can I do to make my house more energy efficient? Well, again, CLG grants will help sponsor those. So there's so many opportunities for us that it's such a no-brainer that I
apologize for interrupting, but like a winterization workshop, you do that for the whole community.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
Just the HDC, because we sent out a questionnaire survey.
Right.
For people within the HDC who would be interested, and we got 2 that were interested.
Right. Well, the more we can
so it's
okay.
Can I bring up one other issue real quick on the little streets? Speaking to people involved with the Preservation Guild, the Cadillac Preservation Guild, they have some funds, not a lot, but I also spoke to them a little bit, and I spoke to the few people on that board, and I spoke to Cadillac Concrete Sign, Mr. Perrin. So he's done good work in the past for me, or that kind of thing, and I mentioned to him the different aspect of the 2 different street areas, how they're wearing differently depending on how the brick is laid, etc. And he suggested possibly doing a test area where maybe, because I said can't that concrete, it's a concrete plug, obviously, at least down the one street there, where could you take the plug out and essentially make a new concrete platform below that, and maybe let the concrete, to give you a solid base to relay brick on top of that, and then do your sand and this kind of thing, like just a little tester area on 1 or 2 of those spots, so the Preservation Guild is willing to put some money toward that effort as like a test area, to try to collaborate with the city. So I thought I'd present it here first before we, move forward with anything on that, and see what we could come up with, at least on
great, because then you would know
areas
what
that
you're
seem
working
stable.
with, and that would get you one step closer.
Right. So
When I drove those streets on the way here, because this has been coming up, and where you see those plugs, nowadays when you pour concrete in a plug like that, they have those stamps. You can make it look like a brick. And you can put which would certainly be better than the way it looks. Okay, I don't know if we can get the reclaimed brick like you're hoping and do each one of those. But if you could dye the concrete red, which you can do, right?
Yes.
And you put a stamp, have a stamp ready, and particularly we know that it's all the historic district, and we could have the stamp match the brick pattern. It would at least look tons better than it does.
Better than it does now,
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
Sure.
I live on a brick street in Kalamazoo, Brick Hill. And the first time they did that, exactly what you're pointing out, all they did was dye the surface. And they also didn't line the lines up, so it's like horizontal to the rest of the brick. And so I pointed out that, well, this is better than just a plain asphalt or concrete patch, but you could major improvements just with some minor changes. They did add the dye, that helped. And then they scored it so that it lines up with the rest of the brick, and that helps too. It still doesn't wear the same, it still looks different, but it's a lot less jarring than what they had been doing before with just asphalt or concrete patches. They make a big difference. The best is putting the brick back, and if you've got someone willing to help you out, that's a great idea. You might contact Kalamazoo. When they have a habit when they have to tear off a brick street, if it's underneath the asphalt, they try to save as many of the bricks as they can, and they might have some. I have no idea. I've been on the yard for a long time, but they might. And other cities, the same thing.
Yeah, the city of Cadillac has some brick, and then there's that, Cadillac Trucking has a good store of them too. Not that they're cleaned up and ready to go necessarily, but,
Yeah, but at least,
you know,
a resource.
Right.
It's just cleaned up, yeah.
Okay. That sounds great.
So, yeah, I thought I'd let you all know that, and I'll
Thank you,
talk
Gwen.
to...
Is the goal to just repair the plugs? Or
I'm sorry?
Is the goal just to, long-term goal just to repair the plugs, or to
Well,
take care of all the deviations and elevation? And
Well, on the flat road that's fairly stable, and the plugs are level with the road, and it's nice and tight, that's actually drivable. It just looks ugly. So, you know, right on the pull-in entrance to the Mitchell house there, that to me would just be a replug your old. The other area I think has to be relayed, and that involves, you know, that's maybe a little more of a can of worms because it's so undulating, and it was the herringbone pattern, and you know, that kind of a thing, and it would require more brick if you have crumbling away pieces and that kind of a thing there. Than just the patches so it's like, gosh, if we could even just get a little bit of an inroad into, you know, the straight, flat, level part where it's not heaving and this kind of thing, you know. So I think they're patching, but that's something that maybe folks with a little more experience on pavers, but I would tend to think that once you rounded the corner there that you would need to, probably that eventually would be needing to be relayed, really. Because I don't see any other way for that to really be fixed, you know. But at least maybe we could start with the little patch, and so I have the gentleman's phone number that Mike sent to me, so I'll give him a buzz. But I thought I would touch base with you guys, you know, tonight and let you know that maybe
great.
we could do that. And, you know, and hey, if the one little patchy attempt, you know, we pull it out and put a little base just essentially lower down of cement, and I mean, maybe that doesn't work, but it's, you know, overall the street seems good, so is it really any worse off? Right, are we worse off than we are right now? So,
the point that they're probably going to, I assume the city may have, is those plugs are there for a reason. They have access, probably a water main or something, so they're going to want to be able to get to it fairly easy. I think in many cases they'll use a low-grade concrete underneath it. It's not as strong, but may solve the problem if you lay then the pavers over the top of them. But there's got to be some good history, some data on how to do that right.
I am fully in agreement that there are things under them that they want access to.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you can't do something different.
Right. Kalamazoo College in Kalamazoo is on a hill, and it has a brick street that runs right through the heart of it. And the college took it upon itself as something that their work study students could do, was that they relayed all the bricks down the entire hill in sections over 8 or 9 years altogether. We gave them an award for it. But because of that, we've got this one guy at the college who was the supervisor who's done it a lot. And if you want to contact me, you can contact me.
Oh, I would love that, yes.
I bet you he'd be willing to, you know, to give you some technical advice or I don't know what. He's a really nice guy, and we gave him an award for it because it was just, in fact, we kind of shot ourselves in the foot because there was a house that needed to be moved over, and we didn't want to do that after all the work they put into it.
Yeah.
But in
Yeah.
the long run, it was really, really nice.
Good idea.
Yeah, even student involvement with, I know they have different construction type aspects to what's going on at Baker College, and I know Ferris has a construction, category over there as well.
I mean, the key thing is putting that concrete bed, and then the gravel and sand that needs to go under it, and then the bricks just kind of sit in this box, essentially.
Right, so they aren't
So
really...
It really doesn't require a lot of skill, it's just...
well, that's good to hear. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you had talked about using the kids earlier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds good. Great ideas. You got some stuff to work with.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
So straight. One of these days.
Okay, so let's go on to one tabled item that we've got with the window application at 307 East Terrace Street.
307 East Terrace. I brought it up. This is the old photo from 2002. All of you got a couple of pages 6 and 7 from the 92-page report. It deals specifically with, at the very bottom of it and the top of the second page of it, with the windows that we talked about. I have been back to the site, asked if I could actually look carefully at the windows, that were replaced, and they're clearly wood. I mean, they clearly are wood. They were primed at the factory, so that was done. Basically, there were some windows that were not replaced. You can see the bay windows in front. Those were not replaced. They're newer than the original wood. Also, there were 2 windows on the west side, some windows on the west side. If you drive past it, you'll see they're to the side of the door, to the left, I guess, of the door. Those were not replaced. And also, this window in the very back, this is actually a attic window. And that was not replaced because it's an attic, and the child and nobody really has access to it. It did have the higher levels of lead, but they suffice just to do whatever they did and paint over it. But the reason was it was not in the living area of the home. Along with that, I've spoken to her. She wants to get some roof re-shingled this fall. Right now is trying to work with banks and come up with financing. She wants to get it done, doesn't have the financing. One person, she's not going to do it. I told her if it was a serious consideration to get with us first. But if you notice that small chimney in the back, that small chimney, it actually runs down into what used to be probably the stove of the home in the kitchen. It's not exposed brick or anything inside, but someone had recommended possibly removing that and basically just doing the roof. Wouldn't change chimneys you see in the left side of this picture, which are the 2 on the west side of the house. She said absolutely those are, she hopes to basically turn into usable fireplaces. But I did just let her know that if there were a possibility, she said that's probably not going to remove that one in the rear just because of the added expense.
But if she does, she is planning to...
I told her she needs to file an application, and she said if she can get the financing, she's basically going to get it re-shingled and just get it sealed around that chimney and go from there.
Okay, so everybody can see on the second page that the windows that they installed, that they are aware that they follow the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation, and have matched the size, design, proportions, profile, and whenever possible, materials of the existing windows, and they have done that with these Energy Star rated windows. I guess, I mean, we, at this point, really, I don't know that we need to, what I don't understand is whether or not we need to go ahead and approve this application based on this additional information, it has been tabled, so I believe we need to go ahead and make a motion if we want to go ahead and approve based on the fact that we've got additional information now to make our decision, which we were unable to do before.
Sure.
I do want to say one other quick thing, because I don't know if everybody got the history on this, and, you know, I don't know if you read through the whole thing, but there was a child living in the home that did experience lead poisoning, and so the homeowner contacted this Healthy Homes organization to come up, and they are the ones that came up with the whole remediation plan that you see. And they felt like they knew that they had to comply with Secretary of Interior standards and do what they did, which they did correct. But they thought that the homeowner was going to follow up with us, because they knew that they were in a historic district. So she knows now.
She knows now.
So that's why this did not come before us, and the windows got changed out, and we caught that and followed up.
And actually, once the child was diagnosed, basically it was to kind of get the ball rolling. Was the physician's office actually helped her make immediate contact with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and that's kind of where it transpired from there. One thing the gentleman, the caseworker, did tell me, which was, I thought, very interesting, is he talked about friction points, and double hung windows are friction points, and lead, and etc. And he said they actually were also recommending that, for example, the old wood interior doors be replaced. And she was pretty insistent that everything that could possibly be done to save the doors be done. And those ended up not being replaced. I'm not sure what the extent of the refinishing was, if they had to be taken down and sent out, and I don't know. But they told me that she, as he put it, saved the taxpayers a lot of money just by her own elbow grease, saving some of the interior trim and the doors and etc. So that was a positive thing. Also, in the old picture, you can see the old railing, railing that was there in 2002, and as we all saw, let me find this, as we all saw before, this has now all been painted, but whoever owned it prior to her getting it through a bank or whatever, they are the ones that evidently took off that vinyl siding from around the porch and put in the wood railing and etc. And when you drive by it, you can basically see she's painted everything.
Mike, what is she doing with the porch walls there? Is that cedar?
Yeah, that was just there, yeah.
That was underneath?
Yeah, it must have been, because she said she certainly hasn't done anything to it. She said she hasn't done anything to that.
It's possible that those previous homeowners did that work prior to the historic district being created, because I don't remember anything coming up since then.
So that's kind of it. She's really put a lot of her own sweat labor into it to preserve what she could, but obviously the priority. And
Dan, do we actually have an application for this?
We do.
Yes.
We got it last month, and we tabled it. It came with our paperwork, but it didn't have enough detail. We didn't know if they were wood or vinyl.
Right. No, I remember that, but
it was in the last packet.
Okay.
So I think what we need to do at this point, and I don't mean to rush this along, because I know we could talk about this a little bit more, but I don't want to make us too late. I think what we need to do is make a motion regarding approving or not the application set forth by the property owners at 307 East Terrace Street regarding the replacement of their windows.
Does someone have an application handy that we could look at?
Question while we're looking at it, does this cover the interior?
No.
We are not.
We are not involved in the interior at all.
Okay.
That was the thing, the application, you know, they usually have wood-clad interior, but not necessarily exterior. I think that was our question last time. The ad blurb didn't necessarily...
Well, I appreciate the owner taking the existing doors and keeping them versus a pre-hung hollow core door. There's no historic thing about that at all.
Right. Okay, the application that was dated September 8th, 2015 from Angie Fairchild states that the description is changing windows due to lead paint. New windows are wood, not vinyl. And then this is, since then, we got the detail on what the windows are, why it was done, etc.
Do we have any recommendations or jurisdiction on the roofing?
Well, we do, but if it's just replacing, if it's just maintaining and replacing shingles that are missing or deteriorated.
Very different styles today. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
are they 3-in-1 or are they...
Well, if it's basic maintenance and they're replacing what they currently have, then we don't have to oversee that. If they're going from some kind of a historic roof material to something substitute.
Well, there's nothing historic about dimensional shingles. They look like cedar shakes, if you will. That's what most people are putting on their roofs today. They're not 3-in-1. So I don't know if that falls into this or not.
It wouldn't, because it's like vinyl siding. If it's there, and if they replace it, they can replace it with more vinyl.
Well, but it's a different style. You're still talking about a look.
Well, I guess the question would be if they're going to change the style of the shingles versus what is there currently.
I would presume asphalt's up there.
I would presume that too, but he's talking about design and style versus material.
What year is the house?
It's old, really.
It's really old. Asphalt.
Probably.
Well, you mean the roof?
No, the house.
Well, the house itself is in the late 1800s.
Okay, it probably did not have asphalt then. It probably had originally, it was probably cedar shingles.
Right, originally.
It's a much better replica of the retail.
But if they're just doing some repairs and maintenance at this point,
Meaning they already have asphalt, meaning somebody a long time ago replaced it with asphalt.
It's inexpensive that the people have, that's
Yeah.
not, you know, we just do it, go ahead.
yeah.
So they only plan on doing parts of the roof?
Right, they're
around
not
the
talking about
chimney?
doing the whole thing.
Oh, I thought she was going to replace the roof.
Oh, that's what I thought.
You said it was just
Shingles, just the shingles, plus, you know, I'm sure
Are you
there's...
talking about
The whole roof?
Are you talking about a whole new roof?
The shingles?
Just the shingles.
But the whole shingles, the whole roof was...
The whole house? The whole house of shingles or just certain repairs?
I believe the whole house was shingles.
That's what I thought.
Because
Oh,
there are
okay.
some
I thought it was just
areas- There
repairs.
are some areas that need repair, but that's what they're talking, repair.
Well, I still don't think, so I agree, yeah, I don't think that
they would have to...
you're still talking like from...
They would have to put on a metal roof or something like that, you know. Yes, yeah.
Okay, all right, good, thank you.
And Mike, if you would, I don't remember the name of the program, but there's a program through the state that's allied with the Healthy Homes people that give low-interest loans to homeowners, low-income homeowners, that are like 1 or 2 or 3%, really, really, really low interest, and for example, that's what it says.
Sure,
So
okay.
if you can have...
Through Healthy Homes. Sure, I've got contacts there.
Yeah, the Healthy Homes wouldn't know about it, but I know I have the flyers side by side in my office, so if you contact me, I'd be happy to give them the contact. Yeah, that would be great.
That'd be great, thank you.
You know, I just want to mention this in talking about roofs, because I've been doing a little research myself. There were quite a few of the historical districts, and I was mainly focusing on like Massachusetts and a lot of places that have like colonial revival homes. They said if you're replacing a roof, and if it's already shingles, they did have some, just some, I don't know, they're almost suggestions, but like choose like a medium or dark shingle and like an architectural one, you know, that kind of thing. I mean, they had some like suggestions. I don't know how loose it was, but they, you know, certainly had some,
Be helpful.
like, you know, because I've seen some light roofs,
Right.
you know. So, I mean,
Well, we got special issues up here too because of our severe winters. And
yeah.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
So happy to be here.
Okay.
Oh, man, that's not fair.
Okay. All right, thank you guys. So I think we need to make a motion to close this application. So does somebody want to make a motion on this? Okay. That we are what? approving this
The
application?
windows that were installed, I guess that's what we're
The application.
saying, the application.
As provided with the additional information. Is there a second?
Support.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, guys. Any other informational items tonight? Any other commissioner comments? We have, just so everybody noticed, Joni Holly walked in. Joni is going to be starting effective November 1st as a new commissioner, and she was approved at the City Council a couple weeks ago, right, Mike? So we're all set with that?
She's approved.
And so we're ready to move forward with that, so you guys will have a new slate, and then you can work on your new slate of officers in January. Is that going to be the official?
January. If we
Okay.
meet in January, we will vote on a new slate of officers.
And in the meantime, Jill, as Vice President, will take over
Jill
the
is
meetings
in
the next
charge.
2 months. And Mark is lining up to take over, so you only have to do it for 2 months. Okay, anything else, guys? Or any other public comments? Or
I want to say thank you, Nan.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure. So, yeah, looking forward to a new chapter for us, and thank all of you for being so loyal and committed to HDC, and I think going forward now with this training tonight, it's going to be really helpful to all of you, so feel free to milk everything you can, Sharon, while she's there, and follow up from there. So, okay, so I just need a motion for adjournment, and we will start the training session.
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks.